Hello, hello. So today I'm going to work a short tutorial with you guys on how to do the Paris stitch. So this is just a small little sample that I've worked up. It's a really easy stitch. It's just a repeat of one row, and all we need to know are double crochets, chains, and single crochets. So let's work this one together. All right, so for this tutorial, I'm going to work with a worsted weight acrylic yarn, and I'm actually going to use a 4.5 millimeter hook. So I'd always suggest doing this stitch with 1/2 hook size down than what the yarn weight calls for, because I find when it's worked just a little bit tighter of a stitch, it gives a better effect at the end. Anyways, I will show you. Let's start this off. We're going to do a slip knot, and then we're going to work our foundation chain, and it's going to be any multiple of 3. So however long or short you want your project to be, just work any multiple of 3 and then add 1 additional chain on top of your multiple of 3. So for myself, I'm going to work 22 chains. Let me show you how to do those. We're going to yarn over our hook. We're going to pull through and pull up a new loop. Yarn over, pull through, and pull up the new loop. So that's a chain. Again, work any multiple of 3 plus 1, and I will meet you at the end and we will work row 1 together. So that's 22 chains there. This is what you're going to have at the end of your foundation chain. Now for row 1, for all of my row 1s, I don't like to work into this V here. I do like to turn my work over, and I like to work into this back bar. So I find it gives a nice edge at the bottom of your work. That's a personal preference, so you don't have to start like that, but that's how I'm going to do it in this tutorial. So turning my work over, I'm going to work a double crochet into the 4th chain from my hook. So this is my chains here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So into this chain here, I'm going to work a double crochet, yarn over, right into that chain. Sometimes you just kind of have to wiggle it in. Yarn over and pull up a loop, leaves you with 3. Then you will yarn over and pull through 2, leaving you with 2, and then you'll yarn over and pull through the final 2. So that's a double crochet. And then for this pattern, the chain 3 that we skipped also counts as a double crochet. So we have 2 double crochets. Next, we are going to chain 2, and then into that same stitch we worked the double crochet, we're going to work a single crochet. And to do that, we'll just insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 2 on our hook, and then we'll yarn over and pull through 2. So the rest that I'm going to show you here will be repeated across this row. We will skip 2 chains, and into the following, we're going to work a modified cluster. So it's 2 double crochets, chain 2, followed by a single crochet. So skip 2 into the following, we'll work a double crochet. I'm struggling with it, sorry about that. Followed by another double crochet into the same stitch. Next, we're going to chain 2, and then into that same stitch, we'll work a single crochet. So that's the modified cluster for this stitch specifically, the Paris stitch. So we finished the single crochet, and now if we kind of look at the cluster that we did, you can see that into this same stitch, we did double crochet, double crochet. If you kind of move it around there, you can see your chain 2 space, and then you can see your single crochet at the end there. So let's repeat that across this entire row. We'll do skip 2 and then the modified cluster into the next one. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, single crochet, and then do that all the way across the row, and I will meet you at the end and show you how to finish it off. All right, so I'm just finishing up row 1. Let's kind of look what we have here. So we've got those clusters all the way across. And then at the end of our row now, we're left with 1, 2, 3 chains left. So to finish off row 1, we're going to do the repeated part of this row again. So skip 2 and work the double crochet, chain 2, single crochet right into that last chain there. And that's going to finish off row 1 for us. And the final single crochet. So it's kind of a lot to put in the last row, the last stitch, but this is what you're going to have at the end once you are done. So just a row of clusters. Now the great thing about this pattern or this stitch is it's just a 1 row repeat. So the following row, row 2, is going to be the row that you repeat for however long you want your project to be. All right, so let's work it together. This is row 2. We're going to do a chain 3, and that's going to count as a double crochet. So we're going to turn our work around, and this is really easy. So the entire row is just going to be working that modified cluster from the first row, but we're going to work them into the chain 2 space. So that's why it's important to kind of be able to read your work. So if we look at a cluster here, for example, we see a double crochet, double crochet. This is the chain 2 space up here. Sorry, this is the chain 2 space up here, and this is your single crochet. So all the way across this row, other than the first one, it will be 2 double crochets, chain 1, single crochet into every single one of these chain 2 spaces across. The first one is a little bit different only because we're counting the chain 3 as the first double crochet in the cluster. So you chain 3, turn your work into the first chain 2 space. We will work a double crochet. And then because the chain 3 counts as one, we're just assuming that the cluster includes the chain 3. So next we will chain 2, and then into that chain 2 space, finish off the cluster with your single crochet. And now this will be repeated all the way across. Find your next cluster, find your chain 2 space. You're going to work 2 double crochets. So there's our first, and this is our second. Then you'll work your chain 2, and then into that same chain 2 space, work a single crochet. And that is row 2. This is a really easy stitch. I know sometimes when you're looking at a stitch, it can look a little bit complicated, but this one here is an easy one. I do really like using the smaller hook because it does just add, I don't know, in my opinion, a better texture to it, but I will show you a comparison at the end of this video. Work these clusters all the way across, and I will meet you and show you how to finish it off. Okay, so just finishing up the row, let's take a look so we don't make a mistake in finishing this one off. So in our first row, we had skipped 3 chains to work a double crochet. So double crochet here because it counted, double crochet here, and this looks like a single crochet. So if we kind of wiggle this around, we have our final chain 2 space right here. And that's where we're going to work our final cluster. So it's just finishing off with a cluster in the final chain 2 space. And like I said, this one here, you just have to make sure that you count this as the double crochet, 1, 2, and then your chain 2 space. So let's finish off row 2 together so you can see what you're working with going into row 3. And then your final single crochet. So once you finish row 2, you will have something starting to look like this. I'm gonna say, I guess, maybe a downfall of this stitch or something that might seem a little bit frustrating. It definitely won't have as neat of an edge that some other stitches have. Obviously the bottom's okay, and you'll see the top is going to finish off like this. There's no ending row. So let's say you were working a dishcloth and you wanted to use this stitch, you would have to work a border on this one because you're going to have this almost shell stitch at the top if you don't, and then a flat stitch at the bottom. So that's what it will look like, only larger. I'll come back and show you a larger sample swatch just so you can see kind of the rough edge that this one leaves, and also so you can see it so you don't think you're doing something wrong as you're working the stitch by yourself in the future. So like I said before, row 2 is our repeated row. I will do it one more time, just a little bit quicker. We're going to chain 3. That counts as a double crochet. We'll turn our work and find our chain space. We will work a double crochet into there, and with the chain 3 and the double crochet, we have 2, chain 2, single crochet into that same stitch. And then this stitch is that easy. We're going to crochet that cluster into every single chain 1 space across this row, and for however many rows you would like for your project. And I will meet you back and show you a larger sample swatch here. So I'm just finishing up the larger sample swatch of the Paris stitch. I think I've done 5 rows here. So once you've worked up a couple more rows, you can really see how just the way the stitches worked, it doesn't give you the cleanest edge. I'm sure there's a way we could play around with it to get a nice clean edge, but either way, if you decide to work a project, you'd either have to come back around and try to work some sort of shell on this side to match the edging on it, or you'd have to work a border. Either way, it is absolutely beautiful. It is a textured stitch. As promised, I'm going to show you it with a 5mm hook. So this is the exact same yarn with a 4.5mm hook. And then here, this is a lot smaller, but this is actually a 5mm hook. So when you see them side by side, you notice that on the 5mm, the holes are much larger. It's just like a not as thick or tight of a stitch. So that's why I did it with the 4.5. I like it better with the 4.5, personal preference. You can work it with whatever you want. But that is the Paris stitch, and I hope this tutorial helped you guys figure it out.